Right, perfect. Without any more delay, welcome everyone to our second regular council meeting. And without that, we'll start with the call to order. So before we address the regular business of this meeting, I'd like to acknowledge that we are today gathered on the traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe lands, never ceded or surrendered in peace to the Crown of Canada. Indigenous peoples living under the modern colonial state of Canada have suffered disproportionate injustice and marginalization. A mere land acknowledgement is not enough to make reconciliation and reparation to the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. We must stand in solidarity against colonialism and remember our responsibility to the land and the peoples who have kept it for generations, which means affirming their call for the free and unencumbered return to their ancestral land. It is also fitting for this body of lawmakers to remember the spirit and wisdom of Indigenous governance models from the collaborative bicameralism of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy to the consensus-based government of the Inuit to deliver to students a better student union. And with the first thing on the agenda, the election of Deputy Speaker C13. So whereas Council Aidan Rorchek resigned as Deputy Speaker this June meeting of Council, therefore be resolved that Council elect a new Deputy Speaker. Since the Speaker Hiring Committee has not had the opportunity to convene and conduct interviews for the rehiring of Deputy Speaker, I will open the floor to those wishing to self-nominate or nominate someone to the position of Deputy Speaker. And all those who are nominated will have up to 5 minutes to deliver their remarks, and then we will vote to elect a Deputy Speaker. Yes, Councillor Rorchek.
Madam Speaker, would I be allowed to just give a quick remark to explain why I resigned and give some context to the situation? Because I believe that's important for the proceedings and just for transparency.
You may go ahead.
Thanks. So good to see you all again. You're probably a little surprised by seeing this on the agenda. So I'd like to just take a second to clarify and make sure everyone understands what's going on. So when I applied to be Deputy Speaker, I also applied to be the Associate Vice President of Executive Relations. Now, when I applied to both of these positions, I was under the impression that I would be able to function in both of these roles. And that was my understanding going into accepting Deputy Speaker and applying to be an Associate Vice President. Now, upon going through the interviews for the Associate Vice President position, I received an offer for this role. However, after discussions with the board, it was deemed that staying on as Deputy Speaker and being an AVP, especially the one of Executive Relations, would be deemed a conflict of interest. Now, after seeing that there was interest in other people taking up the role of Deputy Speaker, I didn't want to potentially take away a leadership position from council, and I wanted an opportunity for someone else to step up and fill this role, especially seeing that people wanted to fill this role. So I thought, it was best for maintaining the integrity of the office and best for council if I resigned as Deputy Speaker. So just so everyone understands, I resigned as Deputy Speaker as it was deemed a conflict of interest with accepting my role as Associate Vice President of Executive Relations. And I encourage anyone who is interested in running before to put their name forward. It's a great opportunity, and I know there's many great qualified individuals who want to take up a leadership role in council, and I just encourage you all to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And with that, we move to hearing any nominations or people who are going to self-nominate. Yes, President Farris, followed by Councillor Cabrera.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to nominate Councillor Jan, who previously nominated herself for Deputy Speaker. And if she wishes to accept the nomination.
Can we hear from Councillor Cabrera? Or actually hear back from the nominee?
I accept the nomination.
All right, then we'll have Councillor Cabrera.
Sorry, I don't think my hand was raised. I was just doing the little applause thing. My bad.
That's all right. Do we have any more nominations or self-nominations? All right, seeing as none. Does Councillor Dijon want to speak for her 5 minutes?
Sure. So, hi, everybody. My name is Jalen. I seen that this role was open previously, and I felt like it would be a great opportunity to have an extra role in council since I've grown interest in improving what we have for like the year to come. And it seemed like a very big leadership role that I could put myself into, as I'd like to have a bigger role other than just being a general member. So I've spoken to previous deputy speakers and they've all encouraged it and said that it's been a great opportunity for them to learn things about the council, as well as once again find a way to be a leader. And just kind of like something about me is that I learn very quickly. And although I have not been in a role like this in relations to leading a council, I do see it as a great way to push myself and learn the best that I can be for this role. And I take, like, how do I say this? I take serious interest in student advocacy, and I feel like this is the best role for that idea that I have in my head to be reached, in a sense. Sorry, my wording is not the best as of right now, but that's basically what I kind of have to say about taking step and putting my foot into this role. So once again, I can assure you that I will do everything in my power to learn the roles and to learn what's most important in making these council meetings the most productive and efficient meetings possible.
All right, thank you, Councillor Dijon. And with that, since the candidate has delivered their remarks, we will now proceed to secret ballot voting. What that means is, Councillor Dijon, you have to leave the call, I believe. And then, yeah, raised hand, President Faris, please proceed.
No, I just wanted to mention that, but we're fine.
Yeah, so if you could just leave the call, and I think it's best I can text you. I don't know what other way to do that. Okay, yeah, she's fine. We open the floor to any comments anyone may have. Actually, it's just voting. All right, if we're just going to vote and there'll be no discussion, then can I just have a show of hands for those that are in agreement, and those who are with proxies, please do put the number of people.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Councillor.
So,
I mean, VP.
Madam Speaker, for the election of deputy speaker, it's a secret ballot vote, meaning councillors cannot vote in public. So what I'd recommend from the internal perspective is to get councillors to direct message you on Zoom with their vote, and then you tally them secretly.
Sounds good. I will be checking my chats. Yeah, please include the number of people you're voting for if you're a proxy. So I'll just take the yeses for now, and I'll start tallying that. All right, can I see the nays? All right, as it stands, I have more yays than I do nays. Meaning I will need. Apologies. Be it resolved that council elects Jalen Dijon as deputy speaker. Do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councilor Rochek. And do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councilor Nguyen. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And with that, we will bring Councilor Dijon back to the call. All right, congratulations, Councilor Dijon. You have been elected as deputy speaker.
Oh, beautiful. Thank
applause.
you. Thank you.
Yep. Moving us to our third agenda meeting, approval of the agenda. We resolve that the agenda be approved as presented to council, notwithstanding section 18 of the council rules of order. Do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councilor Cabrera. Do I have a seconder for this motion? I don't know which one to pick, but a person I see will be Councilor Parhan. And we will now vote by a show of hands. Be resolved that the agenda be approved as presented to council, notwithstanding section 18 of the council rules of order. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All right, I have a total of 13 yays, which I believe is the majority. And all right, now we move to approve the past minutes. We resolve that the minutes from the May regular meeting of council on 29 May be approved. Do I have a mover for this motion? I'll give you a second to lower your hands. All right, I'll have Councillor Azizu. Forgive me, I think I will learn to pronounce better. Can I have a seconder for this motion, or do I have one? Thank you, Councillor Nabia Bilgari. And we'll now vote again by a show of hands. Be resolved that the minutes from the May regular meeting of council on 29 May be approved. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All right, and all those not in favor, please show of hands. I have 11 yeas. All right, the yeas have it. And now we will move to the section of executive reports, beginning with President Faris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good evening, counselors, presidents of different student groups on campus. I have my previous month. That's not a lot because we've been very busy with enforcing the Associate Vice President program. Like we mentioned before, CUSA has a new system of Associate Vice Presidents. And I am proud to announce that we have hired, onboarded all 9 Associate Vice Presidents. They're Aiden Rorchak, who's also part of our council, is AVP Executive Relations. Said Mushtaba Hussain is our AVP University and Academic Affairs. Aiden Kaloinen is the AVP Government Affairs. Musab Chaudhary, a CUSA Council alumni, is AVP Student Funds. Arthur Estrella da Silva is AVP Research and Advocacy. Taysir Ben Chubain is AVP Campaigns. Itor Omana is AVP Student Experience. Johan Say Charles Huggins is the AVP External Affairs, and Lauren Tham is the AVP for student groups at CUSA this year. They will be CUSA's first inaugural, or CUSA's inaugural Associate Vice Presidents this year, and they are here to bring a lot of good success to CUSA this year. So other updates. So we've been doing a lot of new hiring. We have now a full-time staff position for charitable initiatives manager that will be working out of the Unified Support Center. That would help in creating CUSA's charity number and getting CUSA charitable status. That would ensure that we receive more charitable funding for our initiatives through the essential food program and the housing program that the USC is envisioning for. We also completed our second round of board training for the CUSA board. And then the executive team participated at the Student Life Summit by COCA, which is the Canadian Organization for Campus Activities. I had the privilege to also present a session on equity, diversity, and inclusion in events. And I was also asked to participate in creating their first EDI policy and be part of their executive director's hiring panel. A major recognition for CUSA in the student association, student university track. Like I mentioned in our previous council meeting, CUSA, for the sake of transparency and accountability, will be publishing a strategic roadmap for the year. And I've been working closely with the Director of Communications to solidify that, so that this roadmap is available for the student population, the administration, for the council, everybody to look for, hopefully in the early weeks of August. Again, I have an update from last council meeting. The CUSA board, which is the Canadian Alliance for Student Associations, for folks who remember, we had sent our request to join CUSA as an observer for 2 years. I want to proudly say that CUSA approved CUSA's observership for 2 years. That's a big win for CUSA in terms of federal advocacy. So thank you so much for councillors to believing in this work. Next update on mental health program. Like I mentioned, we're trying to find an alternative 24/7 mental health program for students for this academic year. We've been closely working with health and counseling and the university administration to deliver this. So most of the work has been going on identifying some partnerships and our existing models of expanding the coverage of the current student plan. VPSI Picciotto and I have been looking at finding those alternative sourcing for mental health program. Ongoing and long future projects, the council and the board both struck up or constituted their long-term strategic plan committees, and hopefully this year CUSA will publish its first ever long-term strategic plan. I've been also working with the VP Finance on reopening the wing, which is a space between Starbucks and Roosters for this academic year. And then the next couple of weeks, we'll also look more of the transition for the AVPs and for them to get comfortable within their portfolios. to be ready for the academic year. We're also finalizing of the budget, so that's another big priority for the association. And then a CUSA information guide is a guide that we're working that has all access to information for students, anything that relates to CUSA, from governance to clubs to our service centers. Everything will be in this information guide, and we're hoping to have this ready, or something of this similar model for fall orientation. That is all for me. If you have any questions, please ask me during question period. Thank you.
Thank you, President Faris. We will now have the next report from VP Green.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone back. I'll try to be brief here, given that Faris took some time for the most important remarks here. So as many of you know, we, the executives, attended CUSA. In my portfolio, there were very good discussions that I had, particularly surrounding club policy. Myself and the student groups administrator, we've brought back some really good ideas and some action plans in terms of insurance policies for clubs, in terms of club funding, in terms of our relations with Scotiabank and how we operate our bank accounts. So we're really looking forward to sitting down over the next couple months and seeing with clubs oversight how we can implement these ideas that we've brought back from the conference. So that's been something big in the last 2 weeks from CUSA. As well, over the past month, I've been working on counselor placements for committees, and you'll see later in the motion in this meeting, we'll get counselor placements all sorted out for committees for this year, as well planning for council training. As many of you were here on Saturday, and just before this council meeting, we had a training session on Robert's Rules. I will say that all of you have been added to a training page on Brightspace with your C-mails, so you can access all of the recordings of the council training if you weren't able to attend, or if you want to look back on some of the sessions, they're on your Brightspace. And as well, I've played a role in AVP interview and selection, and I'm happy to announce that there's now an AVP Lauren working with myself and the student groups administrator as AVP student groups. So in the month ahead, as I mentioned, post CUSA meetings with the student groups administrator and clubs oversight to kind of figure out how we can implement ideas. Facilitating the first meetings of each standing committee. This is something I'll be reaching out to counselors about over the course of July to make sure that meetings are being set up, that we have chairs and secretaries elected in these committee meetings, and we're creating agendas and minutes properly and posting those on the website for students to learn about committee work. As well, constituting the Student Initiative Fund Subcommittee under the Fees, Finance, and Funds Committee. We've received a lot of applications for the Student Initiative Fund, and I want to get that rolling and get funding out the door for our summer applications. Something that I'm working on this week and next week is the reforming of our advocacy stances as CUSA. So that's something to look out for in the September council meeting, is a motion to approve a new format for our various advocacy stances. And finally, of course, the onboarding and project planning for the new AVP student groups.
All right, thank you so much, Vice President Charno Green. Moving on, we will have VP Finance. How's it going?
Hello, can you guys hear me? I'm using my headphones, so I'm not sure if the sound is coming off good.
Yeah, it's
So
okay.
can
I
you
can
just-
hear you, and I believe everyone else should be able to.
Okay, thank you. So in the past month, not to sound repetitive, but attended the CUSA Student Life Conference. We did several education sessions, roundtable discussions. I personally attended the EDI, I learned a lot from the EDI sessions, the club policies and governance sessions. We set deadlines and key dates for the budget updates and final board approval. I also conducted and completed the hiring for the student funds, and I did attend the interview process for the student groups, AVP. We're currently also in the process of hiring a new accounts receivable person, and we did hire someone as a finance clerk. And for the month ahead, we have the student funds training and onboarding, then the budget completion, which we set a deadline with the board for July 17th, which we're on track to have that done. And also, there's one more thing I didn't put in there, but as well, also working, as far as mentioned before, to reopen the wing. Currently working to create a focus group and a business plan regarding reopening and relaunching the wing. That's all.
All right, thank you so much, VP Finance. We will move on to our Vice President Community Engagement, and
Hi, everyone. I'll be pretty quick as well. So just to run through, in the last month, we had training with the school stakeholders, so the Office of Risk Management, the Students Experience Office, and the ISSO as well. They just let us know some of their functioning and how we can work together for the school year. We attended the Student Life Summits. There were a bunch of very useful education sessions and roundtable talks we had. The ones I focused on were more on student engagement, sponsorships, and volunteer management as well. And there are some pretty useful ideas that I plan on implementing throughout the year. We finished the AVP interviews and selection processes, and I also began check-ins for service center coordinators as well to start planning for the year. So in the month ahead, the onboarding and planning for the year with the AVP External Affairs is one of the things I'm going to do. That has already begun. They've finished their onboarding and now we're in the planning stage. Also, strategic planning with some members of senior management for the Embassy Outreach Initiative, just to plan how to go about it and what methods to take. Service center planning for the year as well. So planning for programming, initiatives, and also some workshopping on resources as well that they're going to provide for students throughout the year. And then also the last thing is collating sponsorship and grant documents for a new sponsorship proposal. So some of our old sponsorship and grant documents are pretty spread out in the organization, different people's drives and emails and things like that. So the Director of Communications is working on putting them all together so that they can be accessible to students and to the staff as well. And I'm supporting them on that. And that's pretty much it from me.
thank you, VP Anne. Moving on, we will have our VP Student Life, Nadi. Before that, a hand from President Faris.
Madam Speaker, I'm just gonna give the report for a VP Naidani. She has sent her regrets for today's council meeting. So I'll be giving her report today. So folks, Iman has been working tirelessly to plan our fall orientation with the SEO this year. But before that, she also attended a CUSA conference, and she also found it really helpful in event planning, data management, and also connecting with a lot of universities for blog booking in the province within the central region, so we can share costs for some talent that go to our schools throughout the year. For that matter, I also believe, and I think she would confirm, that almost all events for fall orientation that are CUSA led have been confirmed and been submitted and are in the implementation phase, as she calls it. She's also met with service centers. We're having a bigger involvement with service centers. I believe there's also a much larger CUSA-wide meeting next in this week, perhaps, to discuss how what programming initiatives can all of these folks implement during one of the days that we have in Nadayanan. Also, the new street team structure has been completed. It's also in the implementation phase. We're trying to keep up some of the names and some of the design process under the wraps, but we'll be announcing to folks in the upcoming month. It's a new street team structure. It's mostly surrounding our hype team and also some social media outreach for fall orientation and to recruit more volunteers. She also regularly attends the fall advisory meeting with several CUSA Carleton stakeholders. Month ahead, CUSA will be submitting our promotional order for Central Frosh and End Frosh, which is the kits that go, CUSA's promo item that goes on to the fall orientation kits. She's also meeting with the business staff to incorporate more business initiatives and their involvement within fall orientation to bring more students into our businesses, which has not been done before. And then, yes, she's also been onboarding and working with the ABP student experience to get ready for the street team and to recruit them and hire them and train them, and then just regular programming for the year. Yeah, I believe that's all for you, man.
All right, thank you. And I would call upon the VP Student Issues, Pesito to deliver her report.
All right, I hope everyone can hear me. I barely have a voice right now, so I'm sorry. Okay, kind of gonna go through like the first few things pretty quickly. Yeah, we went to CUSA. It was quite an experience. I got to definitely talk with a lot of, I focus a lot on actually building connections with other leaders and members of their student unions. So from there, like I put together like a lot of ideas that will contribute really well to like what we want to do for like advocacy for our different campaigns. So I'll definitely be applying that to what I'm doing later in the year. Another thing is that I've been finalizing everything that's going to be happening with Capitol Pride. Probably in the next, like by the end of the week, we should be having the like communal call out for everyone to kind of join us for Capitol Pride. I've also been working with a volunteer at the GSRC, Anya. She is really passionate about, advocacy for the queer community here on campus. So we've kind of like come together to kind of pull off Capitol Pride in like a much larger effort. So we've invited many faculties to join us. We have confirmation from Sprott. We also have confirmation from Public Affairs. And I think we're waiting for sciences. We're around there right now. But we're like sending invites to every single faculty. So definitely tell your faculty about it, if anything. Also, I've been working extensively with RISE, planning our fall orientation event, which will be called the Rise and Thrive Fair. And it'll be an event that it's going to be kind of like a fair outside, but it's going to be like chill energy, just for those students to kind of like be welcomed in a more like communal setting. Moving on from there, in the past couple weeks, I've been in contact with someone who his name is Devin. He's he's the founder of a mental health and wellness organization called Tailwind. I'm gonna give like a little bit of background information of like what Tailwind is. I'm just like reading notes on the side, so bear with me. I'm so sorry. So Tailwind is basically a student wellness organization that focuses on setting students for success and a smooth transition into post-secondary education. They work as an extension of the current mental health program and wellness services that we have on campus. And they help us build a customizable mental health plan that will actually reflect the needs of our students here on campus. And, as Ferris mentioned earlier, a big thing that we're trying to strive for this year is working with a company that is transparent, that holds the same values as us, that will give us data when we need this data, because for us to actually like build a better mental health program, like we need to know like what students actually want and how students are feeling. So in the last couple of weeks, Devin and I have kind of been acknowledging certain challenges that we face here at CUSA. So just to list like the main 4 challenges that we've encountered, one being poor student engagement, another one being like the fact that Empower Me, it's kind of like up in the air right now. Another one is the lack of data, which is a really big one. And then relationship tensions, whether that be between CUSA and the university or outside organizations or whoever, right? So kind of with that being said, and then also the last challenge is like a lack of awareness, that students don't even know that they have access to these services and that they pay for these services. So, so with that being said, what are we trying to accomplish, right? We spoke extensively on like what that game plan would be. But one thing that I really appreciated from Tailwind is the fact that they are really keen on involving not just like the executive team. Like this is an effort that is coming from everyone. And I really want to push for like all like counselors and even members of like our service centers, volunteers, whoever, to come together and be like, okay, let's get a group of us and see like, okay, what are we seeing here on campus, right? So again, like engaging students and, you know, to fill gaps. But then as well, to supply us with like data and insights, which again is like highly important. And I don't want to go into too much extensive information. But like it's just the way they go about things, like they have like a one-on-one service. So they would call a student, or a student would reach out, do an intake form. They would, say like, okay, like how do you want to go about this? They would work with that student to build a plan for them, which I really thought that was like unique in a sense. And it's kind of setting like a student up for like that like prolonged effect of like having mental health support. But aside from that, they're really keen on like having workshops and, you know, being proactive in mental health. And again, boosting awareness. Lastly, before I end things off, we kind of wanted to plan. So one other thing that they do at Tailwind is group kind of sessions in a sense. So I kind of wanted to plan. I'm probably going to be reaching out to the counselors soon to see when everyone is available to kind of see if you guys would want to be a part of like this mock up, like mental health group session, where we would kind of discuss firstly, like, okay, what is it that you want to see with the mental health system that we're trying to put in place right now? And then also like be in a session and be like, how does that work? So then we can see all together, like, okay, is this something that we think will actually have value here at CUSA? Because again, it's the money of our students. We know it's an important like service to have, like there's no doubt about that, but we cannot go through with that, like, or at least I personally don't feel like I can go through with that without having the input of everybody. But yes, aside from that, that's kind of been my main thing I've been working on. By the end of this week, I will be contacting faculty and CASG to like set up a meeting to start talking about the syllabus update that I want to implement. And I'm like trying to see my notes over here. And yeah, and just overall finalizing like details for the campaigns. Also, this week I will be meeting with my 2 new AVPs. They'll be working with me to kind of like catch them up to speed with like what's going on, but also getting their input as well of what they would want to see. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it out there. But if you have any questions, let me know. And there's definitely more to talk about because I know it was a bit heavy for the mental health. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much, VP Crisito. Moving on to our next item will be the external reports, starting with the Rideau River Residents Association. Does President Azizli have any remarks?
Yes, I had a few remarks to deliver. First of all, I want to talk a little about the bike sharing program. We've came a long way since our last council meeting we had. Currently, we're working with the campus safety services and FMP to find locations for them to keep them in. At the same time, we're working on repairing them, and by September, they'll be ready. We're also looking to open a new student position that would help with their maintenance and repairs. Aside from that, we're also in talks with the university or residence management for our convenience store delivery program. And so far, it seems like it will work, and we're currently working on it. Aside from that, we're also getting new equipment for our Prescott gym, which is located on Residence. And lastly, for Residence Formal, we're having our final preparations, and we should be done soon with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will have remarks from the Carleton Academic Student Government. Does President Lepore have any remarks?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So I'm Francesca, and I'm the president of CASG. My apologies for missing the last CUSA meeting. Myself and my team, we were all very busy that evening. Just before I dive into my report, I want to briefly introduce myself since you'll be seeing me around here. again. So this is my second year that I've been involved with CASG. I was the vice president of operations last year, and I'm very excited to be returning to lead the organization as I go into my 4th year of Beacons. As a bit of background, for those of you who don't know, the Carleton Academic Student Government is the student organization created by the Senate to allow students to have a voice on the highest level of decision-making when it comes to academics. So we've advocated for students through partnerships with the university administration and collaborations with other student organizations, and we are very excited to work alongside you all with our academic advocacy efforts this year. So since May, my team and I have spent lots of time transitioning and goal setting, and we've recently hired our FPA and FAST coordinators, and we are very excited to welcome them all to our team. Our first project that we'll be launching very soon is a student satisfaction survey about course registration, primarily with regards to in-person versus online learning options. So you'll be able to find the survey on our Linktree and our Instagram in the coming weeks. Over the summer, we'll be working on various projects and initiatives in preparation for the fall semester, all of which you will hear a lot more about closer to the start of the fall semester. In the next few months, there are a number of opportunities to get involved with us and to work with us. Over the summer, we'll be hiring for a number of student positions, including graphic designer, 2 equity officers, council chair, council clerk. We also have more opportunities in the fall for people to get involved as well. So we're very excited to see what the rest of the year has in store for us. Thank you so much for having me here. Please feel free to reach out to myself at president@casg.ca, and also make sure to stay up to date with everything, with all of our work. All that I mentioned with regards to our student satisfaction survey, the initiatives coming up, as well as the different positions opening up, all of that will be on our Instagram, and you can follow us at casg_online. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Lepore. And if we do have from the Graduate Students Association, does President Zaid have any remarks?
I'm here on behalf of Ellie, the president. Just want to say there's no remarks for now, and whatever would be shared once the president joins in for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from the Senate. Is there a representative from the Senate who has remarks? All right, seeing as there's none, we'll move on to the Board of Governors. Would Representative Simon Harris have any remarks to make?
Ooh, I'm not from the Board of Governors. I am from the Board of although I will say, not to jump the line or anything, I don't really have much to report other than what will be discussed later tonight. So I'm here to provide input specifically with the board nominating committee. So do flag me down if anyone has any questions.
All right, sounds good. And we move on to council reports, the constituency reports. Do we have anyone from the FPA to report anything? All right.
Point of order, Madam
Anyone?
Chair.
Yes, VP Intern.
Just in the interest of time, as I was preparing the agenda, I received no constituency committee reports, declarations of conflict of interest. So I think in the interest of time, since I haven't received anything, unless there's folks willing to speak, I would put it to you that we just skip directly into the next major item, which I think is items for information.
All right, if no one is opposed and there are no reports, we will move on. And now we move to our announcements. And okay, you said there are no declarations of conflicts of interest. But then we'll move to our item for information, which is the creation of Instagram pages for council faculty representatives. And for that, I call upon President Farris and VP Internal Green to deliver this item for information.
So I'll jump in here first, Faris. I'm not sure if you feel free to come on in. This was an idea that we had during our kind of executive planning for the year. In the past, I would say that there's been a degree of disconnect between the faculties and then the counselors representing the faculties. This is a method we kind of came up with, inspired by Madam Chair and her creation of an Instagram account for FAST faculty. And that idea is to create Instagram accounts for every faculty, try to get a following on those accounts, and have those accounts kind of be a venue for information for counselors from every faculty, so that they can bring student concerns directly here to CUSA Council and kind of have a better method of contact within their faculty. So our idea for that would be that Instagram accounts would be created injunction with our communications team here at CUSA. And then certain counselors from the faculty, or perhaps even all of counselors from each faculty, will be given access to the Instagram account so that they can keep in contact, make posts about council meeting, etc. I'll hand it over to President Fars if he has anything to add there.
I'll just say Logan covered up everything. It's also an opportunity for you folks who've realized that not many faculties present reports. You folks creating Instagram accounts is a place, like Logan mentioned, it's an avenue for students to reach out to you, an official one, rather than not knowing where to go. You can host your own events, like a fast coffee roosters night or something, networking night in a way, or like an capstone project discussion event or something, and that way students come with their student concerns and issues. Take it as a sub club of council or something of that sort, as an analogy. But yeah, that was the main point, is to create more engagement between students and counselors.
Yeah. And also, if I may, just to make a comment, if it will be modeled to be anything like the FAST one is, FAST also has not only just the Instagram, there's also an official email address. And to get started and spread word, as the counselors, we would have meetings as in terms of what we want our Instagram page to look like. And then you can sort of divide the roles amongst yourselves. Because it might be a lot dealing with all that correspondence or lack of thereof. So you can reach out to your publication. FAST has a newsletter that is sent out. If you reach out to them, they're able to mass email students and let them know to like follow and keep up to date. And if you do know, each faculty does have associations with each program that they do have. FAST has multiple. So it's reaching out to all of the ones that are underneath that. And you can sort of set it up that way by getting the leaders to talk and then spreading word about FAST. And one thing I will say is students don't really have knowledge of what counselors do. And so you'd be a good starting point when you set up the Instagram to actually define your roles as counselors for your faculties. Yeah, that's what I would say to that. Don't know if anyone has any more comments to add to that. Otherwise, we'll be moving on to the next notice of motion. And with that, we move to a question period. I open the floor for councillors to ask questions to President Faris and the rest of the executive, if there are any. All right, seeing as there are none, we'll move on to our regular business. Starting with new business. The motion to amend the board nominations committee mandate letter C16. So whereas the board made amendments to the board nominations committee mandate letter G046 during the June board meeting, and whereas the board has requested council's approval of the proposed amendments, and be it resolved that council approves of the proposed amendments of the boards to the board nominations committee mandate letter. Their link to those amendments is attached in this document. Should everyone have access to it? But before we begin, do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Udo. That's the first one to see. And potential speakers on the motion, the mover, the seconder, or a VP internal Green or Chair Harris. And with that, Simon Harris, you have raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, of course. One thing you'll learn about me over the next year is that when I say something, I mean it. And I had a conversation with VPI Breen in his office, specifically looking for comments on the board nominations committee mandate letter, because it's the one committee that is within the old committee's policy that is still kind of a joint committee. And because of that, I went, okay, sure, we'll throw it on, and any minor edits will just kind of send back to council. And that is exactly what we did. And that is exactly what's before you now. And when we say it's the most minor edits, I promise you, I think I struck out a sentence. There's really not much to worry about. So hopefully this won't, I encourage county council to pass this without really any need for discussion, if I might be honest.
Are there any further comments from any members? Yes, President Paris, followed by Councillor Wilczek.
I was just gonna say that it's standard procedure for us to it was time for us to look over the board nomination mandate, and it was all the amendments are fair, presented to the board, and request council's approval of this amendments.
Councillor Wilczek.
Yeah, I was just hoping that Chairperson Harris could just explain the choices in the change of wording. I'm just curious why they decided to add highly specialized and remove the last sentence, purely just for curiosity.
That's honestly a great question. I'm pretty sure I can honestly just explain all of the changes. First off, just to make it easy, we struck out directors are nominated by democratically elected individuals from multiple bodies, not only because that's just in there for no reason, but more importantly, because at least at the board level, we tend not to, like, I know some committees in the past have done draws. At least the way that we run it at the board, we allow for people to self-nominate. So that was one thing. We struck out the word council in council committees policy because it's been renamed. The highly specialized process is just within reference to kind of the specific purpose that the board nominations committee is there for, which is to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to hire on or to onboard or to provide recommendations to council for new board members, whether they be class 1 or class 2, or for hiring at the annual general meeting. So it's highly specialized, just for the sake of explaining what the job is. Like there really isn't much else to it.
Are there any further comments from anybody on the floor? All right, seeing as there are none, we will vote by a show of hands for the motion to amend the board nominations committee mandate letter C16. Just to reread, whereas the board made amendments to the board nominations committee mandate letter G046 during the June board meeting, and whereas the board has requested council's approval of the proposed amendments, be it resolved that council approves of the proposed amendments of the board to the board nominations committee mandate letter. Show of hands for those who are in favor for these amendments. Also, just to be clear, Councillor Udo, is it because you are voting for two people? Is that why there were two reactions? Just enthusiasm. Love that. And those who are not in favor, please show of hands. All right, we have 4 yeas to 0 nays, and with that, it is approved. Moving on to our second motion, the motion to amend the committee's policy and the agenda and council operations committee mandate letter C17. Whereas council passed a new committee policy in the May meeting, and whereas the VP internal and councillors have noticed a gap in the policy in relation to policy reviews and governance, be it resolved that council amends the agenda and council operations mandate letter to include more governance responsibilities and to increase the number of councillors on the committee. Be it further resolved that council amends to the committee's policy to reflect a change in the name of the agenda and council operations committee with a link to the proposed name there. Do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Rochek. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, President Paris. And with that, we will move to a discussion. Are there any comments from anyone? Yes, Councillor Rochek.
Thank you. I guess I'll just briefly speak to this as the one who I guess was the chief opponent to the previous motion to change the committee's policy. I'm happy to say that this fixes a lot of the issues I raised last council meeting. It creates a body whose responsibility is to review a lot of the policies that don't necessarily fall into the jurisdictions of other committees, just making sure that we have some kind of committee whose job is to review the policies that wouldn't be looked at otherwise. I feel like it's a good idea just to expand the Agenda and Operations Committee anyway, and I feel like it's just a good step in the right direction for increasing council engagement, and then also making sure we kind of close those gaps and making sure that, you know, the governance, the due diligence is being done to make sure we're functioning as we should. So I'm happy to say it's a very good step in the right direction, and I applaud the VP Internal for this great motion.
Thank you. And we'll have VP Internal Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to start by thanking Councillor Rochek for all of his work on this motion. It's a great idea, and I'm glad we've been able to execute on it. I'll just highlight, I fully support this motion. Not only does it fill gaps in terms of policy review, particularly around corporate governance policies in the new council committee policy, but it also does something a little bit different to the original agenda and council operations committee. Instead of there just being 3 members in the agenda and council operations committee, myself as vice president internal, the deputy speaker and speaker, this new governance and council operations committee has an expanded role for councillors, particularly the 4 chairs of the 4 main standing committees will now be sitting members of the governance and council operations committee. I think this is a great opportunity to get more councillors involved in how we make the agenda and how we produce the agenda. And as well, I think it'll give a great opportunity for committee chairs to more easily bring their work forward in their respective committees to be put on the actual council agenda and have more of a say in their particular domains, how things operate on the agenda.
Thank you, VP. Do we have any further comments from the floor? All right, as there are none, we will now vote by show of hands for the motion to amend our committee's policy and the Agenda and Council Operations Committee mandate letter C-17. So whereas council passed a new committee policy in the May meeting, and whereas VP Internal and councillors have noticed a gap in that policy in relation to policy reviews and governance, we resolve that council amends the agenda and council operations mandate letter to include more governance responsibilities and to increase the number of councillors on the committee. And be it further resolved that council amends to the committee's policy to reflect that change in the name of the agenda and council operations committee. For those who are in favor of these amendments, please show of hands. All right, I have 9 yeas, and those who are against, please show of hands. President Lepore, am I to understand you are a nay? Okay, I see no nays, so I will saw 9 yeas, and with that it is approved and resolved. Now we move to the next agenda. It's all right. Motion to fill council standing committee C18. So whereas the agenda and council operations committee has filled that standing committees of council pursuant to section 7 of the CUSA council committees policy, we resolve that council makes the following appointments to committees. If possible, can we just open that document? Yes. You will look for your names, councillors, to see where you have been put. Those would be either your first, second, or third choice or something else. Yeah, so please just, I'll allow you 5 minutes to look, I guess. And we may, but before that, do I have a mover for this motion before it can be discussed? Thank you, Councillor Parahan. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Bilgrandi. And again, you have 2 minutes to look at this and we can begin discussion unless someone has comments and remarks right away. Thank you, VP Internal, you may go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just give some kind of quick background on how the agenda committee came to these decisions. This is something that under section 7 of the committee's policy, the agenda committee has the power to do is to collect in a form freely distributed the how should I put it? The choices of counselors in terms of their committees. What we did is we then took all those choices and we tried to put people into their first or second choice. And as well where we saw people fit based on their recommendations and based on a lottery system. So while this is the recommendation for committee placements from the Agenda and Council Operations Committee, if there is concerns from councilors about where they're put, if they don't want to be put on a particular committee, if they want to be removed from one, if they want to be put on an additional committee, please just bring it up. And of course, modifications will be made immediately to the document. And as long as we pass it through in its final stage, that's what we're looking to do here.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So with that, we'll move to a vote for second. Yep, a vote for the motion to fill council standing committees. So whereas the agenda and council operations committee has filled the standing committees of council pursuant to section 7 of the CUSA council committees policy, we resolve that council makes the following appointments to the committees. We will now vote. So please, those in favor.
Point of order,
raise your
Madam Chair.
hands. Go ahead.
I believe Councillor Wynn has a comment to make.
Yes, Councillor Wynn, you may go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering if it would just be possible if I could be placed on a second committee, if that is possible.
Is that a request we will do here or it's later on via email? I did.
Yeah, so that's something, Councillor Wynn. Just let us know which additional committee and I'll add you to the list immediately and then we'll proceed to the vote. And if anyone else has any changes they'd like, now is the opportunity to address that.
I think would university affairs work? Right, thank you.
All right, and I see a hand for Councillor Udo. Please go ahead. Councillor Udo, you may speak. They're asking how long the period is until they're able to switch. Like, what's the allowing time?
So Councillor Udo, now is the opportunity if you're interested in switching, because if you were later on after we've passed this motion to decide you want to be on another committee, it would require a motion to council to place you on this committee. So I would encourage you, if you're looking to make a switch or join an additional committee, to do so now. And just to address the chat in there, Councillors have the ability to come to these meetings. We encourage them to, and this list has been circulated now for about a week. So pursuant to Section 7 of the Council Committees Policy, every councillor must be on at least one committee. So Councillor Awad would have been placed on a committee in her first or second choice. I'm not sure which one, but she would be placed on a committee with her input from the form that was circulated.
All right, thank you for that. And now we have Councillor Faisal.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it would be possible to switch to, or sorry, no, be placed on a second committee, either university affairs or finances, fees and funds, if that's possible. Thank you.
All right, perfect. If there are no longer any edits, we will now vote on this motion. Yes, so show of hands for the yeas. All right, I have 8 yeas. Show of hands, please, for those against. 8, 9, now 9 yeas. Okay, that will be just 1 nay. All right, majority, and this motion passes, and these will be at the council standing committees. Are there any further comments about when people can expect to hear about the formation of the committees, or like when work starts?
So, Madam Chair, because we just approved the list, over the next week, probably by next Monday, I'll be sending out emails to try and organize a first meeting of each committee. And during that meeting, it'll be mostly procedural business, but we'll elect chair, deputy chair, and secretary for each committee.
All right, thank you. So be definitely on the lookout for that, councillors. Moving on, we will go to the motion to fill the board nominations committee C19. So whereas a director of the board recently resigned, the board nominations committee must convene to select a new director. And whereas 2 councillors, preferably those who do not intend on seeking re-election, sit on the committee, we resolve that council appoints 2 councillors to the board nominations committee. Do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Faisal. Do I have a seconder? I believe that will be Councillor Cabrera. And with that, I will now ask the councillors who are wishing to self-nominate or nominate someone else to please do so. Or rather, if there's anyone to explain what this role entails, we can start there as well. Thank you, President Faris, you have the floor.
Folks, this committee, the board nomination committee, is the committee that it will be part of the hiring panel for the board members, for the board of directors. So you will be part of basically the hiring panel, and you will send your recommendations to CUSA council of those board of directors. Who will be joining the CUSA board. So it'll be a few interviews that you'll be sitting part of the interview panel. It's a good professional development sort of experience. I would highly recommend to be part of this committee. The timeline of the committee, I see a question. Currently we have a vacancy, so then the time commitment would be between 2 to 3 hours for now, and then again during the end of the academic year to fill I believe, Simon, please correct me if I'm wrong, for the class 2 board of directors or the new directors for the year.
You may go ahead, Simon Harris.
Yeah, I believe they're both class 2 from the top of my head. So almost 2 years for terms, so 2 council cycles, if you want to put it that way. The reason I guess why it's imperative to fill this committee, and if anybody is interested in kind of working quickly on this, that would be preferred. Because not only did we have a director resign right before our June meeting, but actually as of last night had a director resign and send an email effective June 30th. So because of that, we have 2 vacancies. And if you want things to keep coming in a smooth manner to council, as things have been for the past 2 or 3 months, I would highly suggest working on this ASAP if you are a motivated councillor who wants to sit on this committee, because if things were up to me, the sooner that we can get these vacancies filled, the better. Ideally, in the perfect world, before the fall semester starts.
All right, and with that, we can move to our nominations. Are there any people who wish to self-nominate or someone else, or nominate someone else? So show of hands or message in the chat. All right, thank you, Councilor Cavero. I'll give another, and Councilor Faisal. I'll give a minute in case anyone's thinking on it. Go ahead.
And just moving forward, it's just for clarification, my name is pronounced Faisal. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that. Is it Faisal or Faisal?
Faisal.
Faisal, okay, thank you. All right, perfect. So motion to fill our board nominations, C19. So whereas a director of the board recently resigned, the board nominations committee must convene to select a new director. And whereas 2 councillors, preferably those who do not intend on seeking re-election, sit on the committee, be resolved that council appoints 2 councillors to the board nominations committee, K. Cavero and M. Faisal. With the show of hands, those in favor, please raise your hands. I believe it's not a secret ballot, right? So we can just publicly vote. Okay, so show of hands for those. And for those against, please show of hands or message in the chat. Please drop your hands if you're not voting. All right, and the ayes have it. Congratulations, Councillor Cabrera and Councillor Faisal. Yeah, congratulations for your new roles. Moving on, we will go to the motion to approve the council compensation policy C20. So whereas councillors dedicate valuable time and effort to attend these council meetings, and whereas on occasion, council meetings adjourn or may adjourn after 10 p.m. And whereas CUSA is committed to ensuring that our councillors return home safely, we resolve that council approves the council compensation policy linked in the document. Do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Dijon. And do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Parahan. And you may see the compensation policy as it reads on the screen. Any questions or any comments from anyone on the floor? Go ahead, VP Internal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Being the person who wrote this policy in collaboration with President Ferris, I'd just like to comment on it really quickly. The goal of this policy is to kind of enshrine into council's policies what we offer in terms of compensation. I'll highlight compensation does not mean remuneration. In this policy, it simply highlights number one, that we offer refreshments, right? We're talking pizza, we're talking pop, whatever else. That's something that has been common practice now. And the new thing that this policy would add would be that if a council meeting adjourns after 10 p.m., we would offer up to $30 per councillor in terms of travel home. the main point of this is that oftentimes in Ottawa, being a big city, especially at late at night, many counselors may not feel comfortable or frankly may not want to travel home on OC transport or walk home. So this is something that we have budgeted for under student development, and it's something that as an executive, it's one of our priorities is to offer reimbursement opportunities up to $30 for bus fare, taxi fare, or an Uber or Lyft receipt for counselors to return home safely if a meeting adjourns after 10 p.m.
Thank you, President Faris, you have the floor.
I'll just echo what Vice President Breen mentioned. Was also part of some of my promises to improve the council operations is to acknowledge the time commitment that all counselors give towards CUSA, and also to acknowledge that sometimes our meetings can be strenuous, and we should be able to accommodate and provide some sort of compensation that is transport and food, and it's we're just ironing out and putting it into policy now. And not that it's just like it's not just like a want, but it's a need. If that makes sense. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
No problem. And any further remarks, questions? Yes, Councillor Rochak.
Thanks. As a whole, fantastic policy. I applaud the president and VP Eternal. I just have a question about a very small detail. I'm confused why we included a bus fare as something covered when the only buses that I think anyone would be able to take is OC Transpo. So I'm just confused as why that was included, because it seems a little redundant if the whole purpose of this is to make sure you give people an option if they don't want to take OC Transpo. It just seems, I'm a little confused at its inclusion. Some clarification would be great, thanks.
Response from President Faris, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, Councillor Rochak, as someone who keeps losing their U-Pass, and if I'm able to get a ticket at the bus on the spot, and if I'm able to show the receipt back, I think it would help out. So it was just an add-on. And also some folks might not have a U-Pass for whatever reasons. It might not come within the radius of OC transport, so we just added that. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. No, that's perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, like summer council meetings, U-Passes don't work. That's a good point. Councillor Udo, you mentioned Prestos during summer council meetings. So that's another point. Thank you.
All right, and with no further remarks, we're going to vote by show of hands for the motion to approve the council compensation policy C20. So whereas councillors dedicate their available time and effort to attend these council meetings, and whereas on occasion council meetings adjourn after 10, not an efforts of the speaker, sometimes it just happens. And whereas CUSA is committed to ensuring that councillors return home safely, we resolve that council approves the council compensation policy. And those in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please show of hands. Perfect, and the yeas have it, it is approved. And now we move on to our next measure, the motion to amend the council accountability and discipline policy C21. So whereas in past councillor attendance has been poor, and whereas if a councillor is not fulfilling their required duties, the councillor can be removed and their seat filled in a by-election. We resolve that council amends the councillor accountability and discipline policy to decrease the required threshold for discipline due to poor attendance. Motion is attached there. Before we begin, do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Ludo. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Zeba. Can we just show that policy on the screen, please? If there's anyone to speak to this, you have the floor and you do so. We'll start with the VP internal, going to President Faris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just speak briefly on this policy. This is something that the executive is proposing. It's no secret that we don't have all seats filled right now. In fact, we only have 28 out of 35 seats filled. And as you may have noticed over the past two council meetings and council training, there are repeatedly councillors who do not show up and who do not reply to emails from myself or from Madam Speaker. This is a problem, especially considering that, we want every councillor to be engaged, given that they've been elected. We want every councillor to be a voice for their respective faculty and for their students. So the goal with this policy is, considering that in the May regular council meeting, we canceled our July and August meetings, is to modify the policy to reflect council training as included in the disciplinary process in terms of poor attendance. So if you look at the document, you'll see that, for example, should a councillor fail to attend 3 meetings without sending a proxy, there's a process that involves the Speaker of Council in order to see, kind of what's going on. If there's personal circumstances involved, you can look at that. But for example, what this does is it lowers the threshold for those 3 meetings suddenly to become 2 meetings in addition to council training. So please read through the policy. It's a little bit more dense and has certain parameters than some policies we see, but I encourage councillors to read through it and to have, and if they have any questions, to please let us know. In all, it would give us the opportunity to move motions in accordance with the bylaws during the September council meetings to ensure that if a councillor has not shown up to the May council meeting, council training in June, the June council meeting, and the September council meeting, and we have not heard from them, meaning they have not been sending regrets to these meetings to myself or Madam Speaker, that we are able to move a motion in accordance with the bylaws to remove them and have that seat open for the by-election in October. I think we can all agree, if there's a councillor who is not showing up and they've had 6 months, 4 different opportunities to show up and are not responding to emails, it's better that we have a councillor elected in a by-election that is able to show up, to be really enthusiastic about representing students, and to participate in council in committee process. So with that, I'm open to any questions, and I believe President Fares also has some remarks to add.
Look, Vice President Breen always encapsulates it very well. I'm just going to say, it's not a draconian amendment. It's just that we have a new summer format for council. So it's mostly just, we have an addition of a council training. So basically remove 1 council meeting, bring in a council training, and then all of this is if you haven't informed us at all. So there's no communication, nada. It's only when this will be invoked. But if you're sending proxies, if you're sending your regrets to the Speaker and to the Vice President internal, it's all right. So it's nothing about it's not a major disciplinary policy. It's just that we have a lot of empty seats, and we have some councillors who haven't responded to us since the time of the election, and we just cannot be in limbo. We have to fill those seats for the October council meeting. So they still have time until the September council meeting to show up. And if they don't answer by the September council meeting, that's when we will trigger a motion to removal of those councillors who haven't responded till now. Thank you.
Thank you, President. A remark from Councillor Faisal.
Just to clarify, if the council training is viewed, like the recordings are viewed, that will count as completion, or how will that be addressed, I suppose?
No, so absolutely, that will count as completion. And for folks who could not make the council training live, I've received emails from them sending their regrets. I asked everyone in the email that if they're not able to attend, please send your regrets and please let me know so I can make sure that you're on the Brightspace to view it. So if you're a councillor who is not able to make it Saturday and has not emailed me just indicating their regrets and indicating that they would like to view the recordings, if you could please do so, just so I have you written down properly in the spreadsheets. But no, if you view the recordings on Brightspace for council training, you're all good.
Any further comments or questions from anyone? All right, seeing as there are none, we will move to a vote for the motion to amend Council Accountability and Discipline Policy C21. Whereas in the past, councillor attendance has been poor, and whereas if a councillor is not fulfilling their required duties, that councillor can be removed and their seat filled in a by-election. Be it resolved that council amends the Council Accountability and Discipline Policy to decrease the required threshold for discipline due to poor attendance. And for those in favor, please raise your hands. And those against, please show of hands. All right, and the yeas have it 11-0. Now we move to the motion to adjourn to a specific time. Be it resolved that council adjourns until 6 p.m. the 25th of September, and that this shall constitute for the purposes of the act and our bylaws prior notice. Do I have a mover for this motion? Thank you, President. And do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Parahan. And with a show of hands, we will move to a vote for the adjournment, the motion to adjourn to a specific time. Be resolved that council adjourns until 6 p.m. the 25th of September, and that this shall constitute for the purposes of the act and our bylaws prior notice. Show of hands for those in favor. 13 yeas, and those against, please show of hands. All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned until the 25th of September.
I just want to add something really quickly. Is that last year all councillors were in an Instagram group chat. Would folks prefer that as like a more informal communication channel between folks, and we could have that set up?
Sure, we can also have a show of hands for those that would like to be in the Instagram. Is it an option, or you mean like that's our formal communication outside of council?
If you don't want to be, yeah, like we'll create one with those who want to be part of this like sort of Instagram group chat for some informal communication about just a reminder about a meeting or any potential like a meet and greet or that sort, something like, yeah. I'm not sure if it's something people want. It was something that was successful last year, I want to believe. But
are there any other options in case people don't have Instagram?
Discord is an option. Discord. I mean, there's always been a channel. 2 years ago, it was been Discord. Last year, people preferred Instagram over Discord. So I could do a quick poll on Zoom. I'm not sure if I can do that. Can somebody do that?
Maybe we just say, unless anyone has any objections to Instagram, we'll use that.
Does anyone have any objections to Instagram at all? For an Instagram group chat?
I do. I prefer Discord on a view.
Is there a CUSA Discord server?
There used to be. I just gotta dig it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then we can also have like the different faculties and everything, just all that one.
Actually, true. You can add like little roles and everyone can see everything.
Exactly.
It's actually good
Okay.
idea.
So is everyone okay with Discord then? Everyone's comfortable? Anyone who's not comfortable with for Discord, we'll have it set it up and then we'll send you folks an email to join the Discord channel. Sound good? All right. Thanks, folks. Have an amazing summer. See you folks in September next.
Out in under
Thank
2
you, everyone.
hours. It's a record.